is up? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Back with some more Metal Gear Solid 3 gameplay for you. And today I'm going to be talking about the boss fights throughout the Metal Gear Solid franchise. I think I speak for a lot of people saying that Metal Gear Solid has some of the most unique and interesting boss fights in any video game, period. But if I had to point it down, which is an impossible task if you think about it, one boss fight throughout the franchise that's always stood with me through the test of time and just really stood out the most, in my honest opinion, it would be this boss fight in Metal Gear Solid 3, and that is against the End. The End, in my opinion, is one of the most unique and just interesting fights, not just throughout Metal Gear, but just throughout video games, period, because it goes against the antithesis of everything that a boss fight should be. Even going so far as to doing something really taboo to me personally. And I'll get to what that is in a moment. But for this 1 in a million example, it absolutely works for it. I mean, this boss fight was so ahead of its time. I mean, guys, this came out in 2004. And so many times, you fight bosses and simply it's just, hey, shoot them through their dead or their health deplenishes. And yeah, I guess technically this is the same exact thing. But to get to that point, oh my goodness, there are just so many ways you can skin a cat and the way you go about doing it. Now, I'm not going to go into the reasons of how you can defeat this boss fight in multiple ways. Because yes, if anyone doesn't already know, yes, you can defeat him before you even get to this part. You can even defeat him using the time. But I just want to go to just fighting him naturally. Because even that is an event and just a unique experience in its own right. Because, as I said, there's a lot of interesting boss fights through this franchise. But this one just has always stood out to me. But let's get into the reasons why it stands out to me. Because this is not the first time we've had a sniper fight as, in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. There's quite a few of them. But this one is just something completely different in its own right. So, one of the things you'll notice is that you are fighting a sniper in the jungle. And the jungle is a very, very unique environment to fight a sniper in because it's very, very hard to see and find a guy. Because obviously the big thing in Metal Gear Solid 3 is camouflage. And as you can see, this isn't a foe in which you could just easily see. So you can't just rush in there and just think you're going to absolutely do whatever you want. Not to mention the fact that this whole area that you fight them in is split in between 3 different spots, 3 different areas. So it's not just some little small map you fight the guy on. You fight him on multiple areas. On top of that, he's also, as they quote, the father of sniping, an ancient sniper. And he's got the entire area on his side. And I'm not just saying because he knows exactly, where everything's at. Nature is on his side. The End is a very unique character. But then again, all the Cobras kind of are. So that shouldn't be too much of a surprise. So you really got to watch out. Because anything and everything can be used against you. So the land, the trees, just anything. The animals. You got to really be careful here. And really just pay attention to your entire surroundings or you will be taken out. But you might be thinking, okay, come on. If you've seen the End, he's just this old man. What can he really do? Well, that old man can put you down real quick if you're not careful. Not to mention, he'll easily see you, but it's hard as hell to see him a lot of times, especially if you can't find him. But there's one thing about this boss fight that has really always resonated with me. And I mentioned it earlier, and I was talking about how it's a taboo for me personally. Because one of the things I'm a big fan of in video games, I've mentioned this before, I'm a big fan of video game soundtracks. I love video game themes, music. And one of the parts about video games that always gets you excited is when you do a boss fight. Because usually they save a lot of their best music for a boss fight. I'm thinking obviously like, JRPGs, survival horror games, but also, just for normal sounds throughout like a level or something. But I've always been big on video game music. This is this 1 in a billion example in which, if you have already noticed, there is no music. There is no music throughout this fight. The only thing you hear is the sounds of the jungle, the sounds of nature, the sounds of brushing leaves or, the animals or the water. And I think that was the perfect decision for this boss. So I think it makes it so much more intense. I mean, honestly, I think music would ruin this fight. Because as soon as it starts, it's just eerily quiet. And you're just trying to find this man. And every move you think is just so heightened, so just intense, just to move slightly. Because you don't know if you're going to move and pop up right in his field of view. And he's going to start shooting at you. So as you try to find out where this man is. And I think that is absolutely, as I said, I love music. But it goes against everything that I've ever believed in terms of what video games should have. But I think it's the perfect choice. It's something I don't think gets enough credit for, me personally. But yeah, so let's go about fighting them. Obviously, you have to use a lot of your tools at your disposal. Unfortunately, I don't have all the things you probably could need to make this fight a lot more easier. But regardless, you can use your scope, you can use your directional microphone, which is really good, and also kind of funny in a way because you just hear him talk to himself or fall asleep, which, once again, that Metal Gear humor, you can't live without it. But as I said before, I just like the fact that you got to use everything to your disposal. I think that's the one thrill, and this is not just for this fight, but for a lot of Metal Gear Solid fights, is that there's no one way to beat somebody. I think a lot of people have already pointed out and figured it out. There's no one way to honestly defeat an enemy or a boss fight in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. You got so many things here, and here he is running about. And for an old man, he definitely can move. He's booking it right now. But once again, that's how you can defeat him with stamina or as hell. I'm going the stamina route. But the point I'm trying to make here is that I just love the fact of just being in this type of environment and kind of like, a Where's Waldo kind of situation, using everything from footprints to just, sounds with the directional microphone to just maybe not walk out in the opening. But you also got to be careful because, once again, the end is very attuned to his environment. So if you make too much noise or you're brushing about, he will definitely make you pay. But I just love the whole concept of it. It's not this fight can take a while too, especially when you're doing it for the first time. I say once you learn a lot of things, the mechanics of it, and that's the whole part, learning the mechanics of it, you can kind of figure stuff out. But doing it for the first time, I remember it, and it took a while, but it was something I really enjoyed because it wasn't like any boss fight I'd ever faced before. And to this day, I still think it's one of the most unique boss fights I've ever had. Because it's just something where if you rush too quickly, here, he will definitely put you down. And sometimes he'll be right next to you. I remember one time, honestly, and I honestly think this was my first experience fighting the end. I had a situation kind of like that where I couldn't find him for some reason. And I didn't know you could use the directional microphone, but this was kind of my early playthroughs. And he was like right next to me, right in bed with me. And I just could not see him to save my life. And then when I just noticed him and that's how I took him down the first time, I believe. But it was just one of those just iconic, legendary moments for me personally in a boss fight. But yeah, like I couldn't fathom a fight like this because I'd never had one. Boss fights are typically, to me, just beat the hell out of the person to their health depletes. But here, it shouldn't have worked. It shouldn't have been this fun, this good. But for some reason, it was. And for that, I give them a lot of credit. And as I said, Metal Gear Solid has so many great legendary boss fights. So many just enjoyable moments within a boss fight to go beyond it. Obviously, a few of them, that could have been the one I made a video. It could have been Psycho Mantis from Metal Gear Solid 1. I remember hearing that for the first time. I mean, I was a kid, so just imagine someone telling you, all your save game data and thinking that the game is self-aware or something. On top of the fact that it gives you so much variety. Because I think that's another cool part about the Metal Gear boss fights is where, like, you'll fight an enemy, and as I say, you can beat them in so many different ways. There's no one way to really beat a lot of the boss fights. I mean, at the end of the day, it's how you want to use your equipment, your weaponry, and how you want to do it. As I said, like this boss fight, for example, I didn't want to go too much in depth. I just want to talk about fighting them normally. But even fighting them normally, there's a lot of ways you could have beat him. It didn't involve what I did. You could do so many things. But you could also, beat him before you actually fight him or stuff like that, or use time to beat him. Like, it's just like, wow, like there is so much thought put in these fights, especially this one. And that's why to this day, when people ask me which boss fight really stands out the most in terms of being the most unique and different, I have to give it to the end. And this old man really just, I mean, he really stands out in so many ways. And I couldn't be more happy to be a part of just playing something like this. And if there's one thing I'm really interested in how they do when they do the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, it's how they would remake this fight, and with how technology has definitely advanced. How amazing! Just imagine doing this fight with, like, I don't know if the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake would be on the VR, but if it was, just about doing this fight in the VR. Like, I can't even. I would get a VR just for this fight, honestly. I mean, I've never owned one, but I would get one for this fight. I can't even fathom that. But as I always like to say, that is my opinion. I want to hear your guys' opinion. What is the most unique boss fight you think in a Metal Gear Solid franchise? And do you think they have some of the most unique fights, period, for any video game franchise? Let me know down in the comment section down below. But that is going to be it. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully I can see you guys back on the next one. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you all later. Peace.